I am Dr. Rajesh Gopinath and I welcome you all to the online learning platform at Department of Civil Engineering, BMS Institute of Technology and Management. Today you are with me on the course Water Supply and Treatment Engineering, popularly also termed as Environmental Engineering. In the last session, as you can see in slide 3, we had discussed about aeration, its various types, its merits and demerits. Now let us look at the next unit operation after aeration. Slide 4. Today's class we shall be discussing about sedimentation. If you look at slide 5, you will be aware that first I'll explain to you the need for sedimentation and its relevant concepts. Further, I'll explain to you its construction, its various types, the factors influencing design of a sedimentation unit and how a typical sedimentation unit works, finally before summarizing and listing the references for you. Let's move on to slide 6. Now, there are certain aspects, certain thoughts that should be very clear when it comes to understanding the concept of sedimentation. First and foremost, we need to understand that sedimentation and settling are two different terminologies. They are two different things. Settling is basically a unit operation in which the solid particles are drawn towards a particular source. In the context of our presentation, it will be gravity, which means settling is an operation wherein due to gravitational force, the solid particles come down or move to a particular location. Alright. Now, sedimentation is a process or a condition wherein the solids which are already at the bottom get sedimented. Please remember, settling is not yet sedimenting. It is just that the particles are falling down the water column in response to gravity. Only when they reach, that is only when the solids reach the bottom, they begin sedimenting. Okay. Usually in the physical treatment of water and wastewater, settling is normally carried out in settling or sedimentation basins. Okay. To understand what I said better, let us look at the images on this slide 6. For your benefit, I have drawn arrows, that is gravitational settling and then sedimentation. Sedimentation, I have drawn a red colored arrow. So you can see that in gravitational settling, those particles which are suspended in the water are gradually coming down. And then in sedimentation, you can see that all the particles have got settled at the bottom and they are being acted upon by the weight of water. Okay, I hope I am very clear. Now let us move further. We need to also understand what are these particles or solids that we are talking about. As you are already aware, water will comprise different types of solids, but primarily sedimentation is a process wherein we are talking about the removal of settleable solids, that is those solids which can settle due to its own weight. Given certain time, okay, these solids will eventually settle down. These are called settleable solids. Technically speaking, these are also called as discrete particles, that is a type of solids which will not alter its size, shape or weight while rising or settling in any fluid for that matter. Okay. Of course, there are certain forces which are involved. Now the forces for settling can be gravity or it can also be a centrifugal force. Now the entire concept of sedimentation basically works on Stokes' law. Okay. And overflow velocity plays a very important role when it comes to sedimentation. Now let us move on to slide 7. Now I am showing you a very simple representation of what are the various construction parts of a sedimentation tank. Now, if you can see along with me, you have inlet zone, you have settling zone, you have sludge zone, you also have outlet zone. Okay, now also you can see certain addendums such as target baffle, perforated baffle, and effluent weir. Let us try to understand the parts of a sedimentation tank or a settling basin better by moving on to slide 8. Now, what exactly does an inlet zone do? Inlet zone is that part of the tank which allows the water to enter into the actual part of the sedimentation tank, okay, which means the settling zone. Now, the importance of inlet zone is it has to ensure a smooth transition. It has to ensure uniform flow of water into the tank, and inlet zones would usually employ baffles. Now, the advantage of baffles is it prevents short circuiting. That is, it doesn't allow the water to enter rapidly and disturb the ongoing settling and sedimenting process. Okay, having understood what an inlet zone is, now let us move on to understanding the settling zone. Settling zone, this actually occupies the largest portion of your entire sedimentation tank or your settling basin. This is the most silent zone of your tank, which means quiescent zone. Here the water is maintained in a quiescent manner. The flow is extremely very slow, and this enables the settlement of the suspended particles, which are actually the settleable solids. Okay, now moving further, having said that water enters from the aeration tank into the inlet zone, from the inlet zone via baffles it enters into settling zone. In settling zones, two things have happened simultaneously. One, the settleable solids are settling and the clearer water is moving ahead. Okay, now the solids which are settling down, it comes down to the bottom where sedimentation takes place. This zone of the tank is called as sludge zone. This is where these settleable solids are collected, and eventually these are called as sludge, and there is a system in place wherein this settled sludge or sedimented solids are removed. Okay, now the last part of the tank is the outlet zone. Outlet zone, just like inlet zone, also performs the function of smooth transition of water, clearer water, into the subsequent operations and processes. Okay, what is important here is this area of the tank is also basically controlling the depth of water in the basin. Having said this, there are also weirs which are set at the end of the tank which will control the overflow rate and also prevent the settled solids or suspended solids from rising to the weirs and leaving the tank before they settle out. Now, let's move on to slide 11. This is another representation of the construction of a sedimentation tank. So this is for your further perusal. Okay, you can go through it. You can see both the plan view and the cross section. All the four zones, that is inlet zone, outlet zone, sludge zone, settling zones, can be seen in this image. As always, depending on the type of sedimentation tank, there are various addendums or apertures or fixtures. Alright, let's move on to slide 12. Now, what are the various types of a sedimentation tank? There are three classifications based on its location, based on the operation, and based on its shape. Let us look at the first classification, which is based on location. Based on where your sedimentation tank or settling basin is located, you may term it as a primary sedimentation tank or a secondary sedimentation tank. If you look at the image on this slide 12, you can see primary clarifier and secondary clarifier. Primary sedimentation tank or primary clarifier, as you may put it across, okay, is when this unit is present before other important operations such as aeration, coagulation and so forth. Sometimes the primary sedimentation tank also serves as an equalization basin, which means it serves as an entity to store water, normalize the flow before the water can be transported or moved on to the next unit operation. So thereby primary sedimentation not only facilitates settling and sedimentation but also serves to behave as an equalization or a flow normalization basin. Secondary sedimentation tank is when this tank is present after certain other important operations and processes such as coagulation, aeration and so forth. Now basically the decision to have primary or secondary or the number of units depends on the situation, the demand and the extent of treatment which is required. But please note, it is merely based on where it is located that this classification is applicable. However, based on the location, it serves to perform more than one function. Now, let us move on to slide 13. Fill and draw type is a plug flow reactor. Continuous flow type, as the name says, is a continuous flow reactor. In plug flow type, what happens is water enters in an inlet zone. It is stored there for a specific time and only after a specific time the water is removed. So when it comes to your fill and draw type tank, water enters the sedimentation tank via inlet. Then it is stored there, say for 24 hours. That is depending on the design period. After this design period, after this detention period, then the water is let out via outlet zone. Okay. During this detention period, sufficient time has been given for the settleable solids to settle down and get sedimented. Okay. Now, let us say after the 24 hours, the clearer water has been discharged via outlet. Then the subsequent operation would be to remove the sedimented solids. This would require about 6 to 12 hours. Therefore, my friends, one complete action of sedimentation in the context of fill and draw type may require about say 30 to 40 hours. Okay. Now, hoping that you have understood this, let us move to the next type, continuous flow type tank. Here the water enters via inlet and same time simultaneously there is also clearer water exiting from outlet zone. So unlike your fill and draw type, here the basin does not behave for storage, but the water enters and is moving steadily along the length and exiting at a pace which is so less that it allows sufficient settling to take place. Now, depending on how the water is entering the settling basin, or how the water enters the sedimentation tank, you can again categorize them as vertical flow or horizontal flow. The image on the left bottom corner is a horizontal flow type. So you can see that the water enters horizontally. Here the sedimentation tanks are basically rectangular in shape, and most important aspect is it will always have a length greater than the width, at least twice of that, because if you want to achieve maximum settlement, then the water has to flow or move a greater distance, and the maximum permissible velocity in this case would be around 0.3 meters per second. Moving on, let's look at the image on the right hand bottom corner, that is your vertical flow sedimentation tank. Here the water enters the sedimentation tank in a vertical fashion. Unlike your horizontal flow, which is rectangular shaped tanks, vertical flow type sedimentation tank are usually circular in shape. Okay, and also a hopper bottom is provided at the bottom of the tank to collect the sludge. In the case of your rectangular tanks, which could be of fill and draw type or your horizontal flow type, the water is moving from the outlet zone and the sludge is collected at the bottom. Okay, now it depends whether it is a horizontal bottom or an inclined or sloped bottom. Now when it comes to your circular tank, you can see the hopper bottom, which facilitates the movement of sludge or sedimented or settlable solids into a particular direction or particular location. So by now you have understood two classifications. First, based on the position of sedimentation tank. Second, based on the method of operation, which also includes how the water enters the sedimentation tank. Now let's move on to the third classification, the most popular and which is based on shape. Circular, rectangular, hopper bottom. Depicts a circular sedimentation tank. You can see the image, that's a photograph. You can also see a plan view and a cross section. Circular sedimentation tanks are preferred for continuous vertical flow type. This I am sure you know by now. Okay, that is what we had discussed in the last slide. Here in this context, the water is sent through a central pipe of the tank and then subsequently radial flow takes place. Also, mechanical sludge scrappers are provided to collect the sludge, and then this collected sludge is carried through sludge pipe provided at the bottom. Circular tanks, when you compare to a rectangular settling tank, is uneconomical. But the greatest advantage it offers is a very high clarification efficiency. Now let's move on to slide 30, that is rectangular shaped sedimentation tanks. Now these are the most preferred type of sedimentation tanks and hence widely employed. Usually the flow takes place in a horizontal direction, that is lengthwise, that is the water flows along the length. Here sometimes baffle walls are also provided to prevent short circuiting. The maintenance cost is very low in case of a rectangular sedimentation tank, and hence they are also suitable when you speak about large capacity plants. Mostly the depth of these basins are around 2 to 6 meters, and as I discussed before, the length is usually more than twice its width, and the length may also vary from 10 to 20 times the depth. Okay, as obvious, it is the plan and cross section clearly indicates the rectangular aspect. So how does it work? The water enters from the inlet, then via baffles, then it goes to the settling zone, and then the clearer water goes via outlet while the sludge is collected in the sludge zone. The third type based on shape. This is the hopper bottom tank. So in this case, as you can see the shape, there is a hopper bottom which has been provided, okay, which facilitates the movement of the settlable suspended solids towards the bottom of this tank. Also, a deflected box has been provided at the top which will deflect the influent, that is the incoming water coming from the central pipe to downwards. Eventually, the collected sludge is disposed through a sludge pump and the clarified water is removed through the outlet channel. Slide 16. Let us have a glimpse of the various design aspects for a sedimentation tank. As you have been introduced before, we are dealing with discrete particles, that is a type of settlable solids or a suspended solid which would not undergo any change in its size, shape or weight as it is rising or settling in the water. Okay. Now in the area of environmental engineering, with the context of sedimentation or coagulation or flocculation, there are 4 types of settling. In this context, we are dealing with type 1 settling, which deals with dilute concentration and discrete particles. Now, what are the important parameters when it comes to your sedimentation tank? As I have told you before in introduction, sedimentation is based on the Stokes law. Thereby, any particle which is denser and larger will have a greater probability and a higher settling velocity. Okay. Certain other design parameters which are of prime importance would be length of the tank, okay, which is basically a product of the detention period and the velocity of flow. Cross-section area of the tank, which is a dividend of capacity of the tank with its length. Okay. Then most important, the overflow rate, which is a dividend of the discharge and the surface area. Moving on, detention period, which is a dividend of the capacity of tank and the discharge. Wear loading rate, which would be a dividend of the discharge per day with the length of wear. Okay, what we need to understand is velocities, settling velocities, cover velocity. Settling velocity would be that velocity wherein there is facilitation of settling of particles being taken place. In this context, if there is 100% removal of particles, then you call it as critical settling velocity. Okay, moving forward, let us go on to the influential parameters for sedimentation tank in slide 17. Now, please just have a look at the list of parameters or factors that I have mentioned on the left hand side. Okay, if I may summarize these, then I may say that the factors which influence sedimentation include the size, shape, density and nature of particle. When it comes to the water, its viscosity, density and temperature. For instance, if the water is warm, there will be good settling. If the water is less viscous, there would be obviously good settling. Okay. Now, moving on. Also the velocity of flow. Okay. Whether it's a settling velocity or covering velocity. Please understand, as discussed before, settling velocity is that velocity which facilitates settling to take place. On the other hand, let us say this velocity is very high. Then it would obviously disturb the settling process. Then it is called as covering velocity. So we have to ensure that the velocity of flow is as less as possible. Okay. Inlet and outlet arrangement also matters. Whether the water is entering in a smooth manner, whether whether the clearer water is exiting in a smooth manner. If your inlet and outlet arrangements are not apt, then there will be disturbance. There would be resettlement or rising of the settled solids. So obviously what happens is settlement will not happen gradually, settlement will not happen uniformly, and also the water which is exiting will contain suspended settleable solids. Okay. Now, detention period is also very important. As the detention period increases to a certain extent, settlement also will be greater. When it comes to your depth, it should be effective, because the greater the depth, settlement also will be higher. Okay. Now let's move on to slide 18. Now we shall have a very simple understanding of how the working takes place. Now, in order to help you in this context, I have given two examples. One is slide 18, which is a rectangular tank, and slide 19, which is a circular tank. Let's start with slide 18. In slide 18, okay, for a horizontal flow rectangular tank, you can see baffles. So what basically happens in this kind of tank, or for that matter any horizontal tank, the water enters via inlet, that is raw water. Okay, and obviously the clearer water or the supernatant will be exiting through the outlet. So what happens between this? Water enters, then it has to encounter or face baffles. These baffles could be perforated or could be arranged in a manner which reduces the flow of water. Now, you may have baffles arranged only at the inlet and outlet, or you may also have baffles arranged throughout the length. Now, basically what happens is when the water hits the baffle, its velocity gets reduced. Not only its velocity gets reduced, also particles which are suspended strike these baffle plates and fall down to the depth of the tank. So, throughout the length of the tank, this is achieved. That is reduction in the velocity to enable settling velocity to be achieved, and also settlement by hitting or impinging on the baffle plates. This is a very simple working and operation. However, the efficiency would be relatively lesser, that is clarification efficiency, when compared to a circular tank. Now let us move on to slide 19. Slide 19. I have discussed this before, but let me again explain once again for a better understanding. Especially for this kind of tank where there is a radial flow and the entry is vertical. In the previous slide it was horizontal entry. So here the water enters through a central pipe, it moves up, okay, then it moves radially. So basically what happens here is, due to the change in direction of flow and also due to the presence of the sludge hoppers, there is decantment of the settleable solids towards the center. As it's a hopper bottom, all the settled sludge is removed from the sludge zone. Now, while in a rectangular tank, the inlet and the outlet were located diametrically opposite, okay, what happens here is the inlet happens through central pipe, but the entire circumference of the circular tank serves as an outlet zone. This I am sure you will understand better if you go back to the image on slide number 12, okay, which shows a circular tank for your kind perusal. Okay, now let's move on further to the advantages and disadvantages in slide 20. So what are the advantages of sedimentation tank? Very simple, requires less energy, can remove all settleable solids. You do not need any skilled operator or any skills in this matter, and it's easy to expand relatively when it comes to your facilities, since it's a rectangular facility, or even if it's a circular facility, you can enhance it with respect to the additional fixtures. Okay, it is also very easy when it comes to your operation and maintenance. Also, during any repair works, it is possible for humans to enter the facility and clean it. Now, what could be the disadvantages? Disadvantages, while your suspended solids, while settleable solids are removed by sedimentation, they fail to remove suspended solids, the fine suspended solids, the fine colloidal solids. Okay. Also, if in case you do not design the sedimentation tank properly, if you do not design the inlet velocity, okay, if you do not design the overflow rate properly, then there are chances of resuspension of solids taking place. You might end up with a scouring velocity rather than a critical settling velocity. Also, sedimentation tanks will occupy huge floor space. Huge land will be required if you want to have sedimentation tanks in series or parallel. Let's summarize this with slide 21. Now you have understood that settling and sedimenting are two different terminologies, two different processes. Okay, you've also understood that sedimentation is good to remove settleable solids but not for suspended solids. Also, you have learned the three classifications of sedimentation tank based on position, operation and shape. Slide 22. These are the references which I have followed. You also may kindly go through this. Okay. You'll also find additionally videos, especially in the first link what I have shared to you in references. My dear friends, in slide 23, as you can see, we shall be discussing the next unit operation, okay, which is coagulation and flocculation. Since sedimentation cannot remove suspended solids, it needs to be removed, and the way forward for that is coagulation and flocculation. So until then, I bid goodbye. Thank you. Take care.